welcome to Sci-Fi-Night. I'm your host, Sebastian Vendel Martinez, and this is the show where we take a look at some of the lesser-known sci-fi and horror movies out there and try to find the right expectations needed to get the most out of them. So, for tonight's episode, we're checking out some really ridiculous genetic engineering. Splice is a 2009 sci-fi horror film that generated mixed reviews, to say the least, when it first came out anyway. Some people found it to be a breath of fresh air for the genre, while others completely hated it.
We fucked up.
I'll admit I understand the split, so I guess I'll try to give some perspective so we can find out which group you belong with. A lot of the hate seems to stem from the film's marketing. For some reason, the film was marketed as some kind of a horror film with a monster running amok killing people.
What's going on?
Not the slower-paced and unorthodox sci-fi film that it actually is. Basically, the film was marketed for the wrong audience, which is the studio's fault, not the film's.
Ooh, hold on, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves now.
The plot revolves around a scientist couple played by Adrian Brody and Sarah Polley. It's also directed by Vincent Nantlai, whose name I surely mispronounced, who's also directed other films like Cube and Haunter. The scientist couple are experimenting with genetic engineering and want to start experimenting with human DNA.
We all know that can't happen right now. The moral outrage would be completely out of control. Regulators and politicians, they'd tear us to pieces.
This gets shot down by the company they're working for, so they do what any self-respecting serious scientist would do in their place. They decide to screw the rules and do it anyway without telling anyone. They actually managed to create a part-human hybrid that they named Dren, who starts out similarly to a small child but grows up very rapidly. As she grows, Dren tries to find an identity and learns to deal with its capabilities and skills, as well as with anger, hunger, and other emotions.
Do you want to play a game or something, sweetie?
The film is very nicely filmed, and there are tons of gorgeous shots that are well worth seeing. It asks a couple questions that have been asked before in similar Frankenstein-type films, such as how far we can go without playing God, and questions surrounding the creation of genetically engineered life.
Well, what were you... Was this ever about science?
Of course it was. It still is.
This gives the film quite a bit of depth, because otherwise, without that, it'd pretty much just be kind of a generic monster film. The film takes a few risks as Dren eventually develops a sexuality, and it gets kind of awkward and disturbing. Even though the majority of the film is dialogue-based and toned down, there are still a few bloody moments that surprised me, as I thought I was going to be in for a less graphic film. But my expectations of a very toned down and dialogue-based film were shot down as we do some pretty freaky and messed up stuff towards the end. Brody and Polly both do a good job, but Dren kind of steals the show here.
I don't understand.
She looks great, and both the actress and the effects used to bring her to life are awesome. Dren has tons of personality and manages to be cute, frightening, innocent, and monstrous. So the duality of this film is kind of interesting, as it brings up some interesting stuff and asks some good questions, but it also does some pretty messed up and bloody stuff as well. So despite how much hate this film got because of bad trailers, I kinda like Splice. It's kind of different and it looks very nice as well. There are a couple loose ends that don't add up, and I mean the underlying plot of nobody discovering this genetic experiment is a little bit silly. Also, the ending leaves a little bit to be desired, but overall I found this to be a very interesting, cool, and at times gross movie. So, what should you expect from this movie? Good cast and crew. Whether you liked this film or not, you can't deny that a lot of talent went into making this film, both from the actors and the director. The film is very nicely shot and edited, however, there are some minor issues with the script that detracts from the overall picture.
Not working.
Crimes against nature. If interspecial relations, genetic engineering, sexual violence, animal death, or a combination of those things disturb you, then this might not be for you. It's not like this is some kind of horrible torture porn with mutants, but it has quite a few dark themes that may upset a couple people who were expecting something a little bit more traditional. Me though, I think this dark theme is really awesome.
See? Love at first sight.
Strangeness. From the tone to the pacing to the end to a lot of stuff, this film is just in general kind of weird.
I don't want to spoil the surprise.
If you're not a fan of different, slower, and more bizarre takes on sci-fi, then you probably won't like this.
What's the problem?
This is definitely not a straightforward sci-fi film. After all, there are tons of horror elements in it as well, but not played in the same way as we usually see those themes combined. Also, the tone is definitely kind of off as the film meanders a bit, and there are a couple things that don't really make any sense. Alright, so to sum up, this is definitely a weird film, but it's also an interesting one. Overall, I'd say it's definitely enjoyable, provided you're not expecting the fake horror film that the trailer made it out to be. This is a slower paced film that is more sci-fi than horror. Check it out if you like something weird.
You're really something, aren't you?
So, that about does it for this episode of Sci-Fi-Night. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave us some comments below, letting us know what you thought of this episode, the movie Splice, and what kind of movies you want to see brought up here in the future. While you're down there, you might as well click the like and subscribe button to help the show out and stay updated with it. I'm Sebastian Vendel Martinez, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Come on. Okay. Listen,
Eat this.
listen.
Just eat
Okay,
it.
here,
Eat,
I got it.
look.
I got it.
Okay,
Good
eat this.
girl.
Good. You can eat that.
Good girl.
Good. See?